Hello and welcome to the first hashtag badge chat show and tell of 2018. Super excited to be live and with you this Monday afternoon, and really excited to be joined this week by Bob Habersat from Chicago. Bob, thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Noah.
And Bob, for anybody who didn't get to check out the details of the chat beforehand, let's just kind of, before we dive into any of the badge stuff, just start off with just kind of who you are, what you're kind of working on, and how you kind of arrived at the whole digital badge credentialing space.
Awesome. I'm a high school music teacher in the Chicagoland area, and my partner and I created a website to help our students about a year and a half ago, just for remediation and enrichment. And then it grew, and we presented at a couple conferences, and then through a link with the American Jazz Museum, we were hip to LRNG. We were looking for some sort of system where we can push out courses to students that aren't ours, so that we can, help as many people as possible. And then they told us about badges and how it's all skill based, and it just like really fit with what we believed in and what we were looking at doing.
And for anybody who's not familiar with LRNG, that's lrng.org. If you've heard of the Cities of Learning, Summers of Learning, that there's some of the folks behind that, and their CEO Connie Yao was our keynote speaker at last year's Badge Summit. And so tell us a little bit more just about how, Bob, you got kind of dialed into LRNG and why Shed the Music made sense for partnership with them.
Well, we had one of the people that attended our first conference was from the American Jazz Museum, and he was in charge of their educational outreach program. He's no longer there, but we were telling him what we wanted to do and how we wanted to make high-level jazz learning equitable. And he's like, "Man, we've been working with this LRNG, and they're great with students with little to no music education access. I think it would be a great fit." They weren't working with them in that capacity, but they were thinking about doing a project with them. And then I got in contact with Jessica Rosenberg at LRNG, and we put together a playlist for just finger drumming for like music production stuff. And then we've been building a few more playlists with them, but just they were the first digital badge people, the first digital badge thing that I have ever seen outside of, like I'm an Apple certified educator or something like that. So it was just really cool to see that. And then we went to I went to the LRNG Learning Summit, and I met with a bunch of really intelligent and creative people, and just like seeing that the whole world of digital badging is where it's gonna go, and then everybody is super excited and positive about being in on the ground floor, and they want to lay everything down so that it can be a thing that everybody's going to use, and yeah.
Totally. And for those of you just joining live, we are with Bob Habersat. You can follow him on Twitter at Shed the Music, SHED, Shed the Music. And if you have questions that you want to ask Bob live on the air, go ahead and tweet them to hashtag badge chat, and we'll make sure to get to those. And Bob, you mentioned the equity word there, and do you mind kind of diving in a little deeper beyond just the word, just kind of how that directly ties into the work y'all are doing? And also, maybe that's also a good segue into your feelings about just the relevance of where most music education is versus where it needs to be to prepare students for college.
Yeah. Well, when I went to a high school that didn't have a strong like jazz theory program or a lot of theory at all, and I was a guitar player, so I knew how to play like Iron Maiden and stuff. And then like when I got when I got hit with to play a solo in jazz band, and I was like, oh my gosh, or even like reading music, I had no idea what I was going to do. I couldn't read tab. So when I started creating content for just Shed the Music, thinking about the me's in the world that didn't have that, or they didn't have like an expert music producer to teach them music technology or something. So there's just the hole that some music teachers can't fill, which is cool because then they have expertise in other areas, but just the content knowledge. I just want to help teachers with that. And then there are the students that don't have music in their schools, and like, what can they do? And if they're really interested in jazz, unless you have a teacher and you pay them like $30 a week, it's really difficult to get that kind of thing that we're going for on the jazz end of our platform. And then just for everybody else, it's I think it levels the playing field. It's like, this is what music is, and then you can go through it and watch these videos. We try to make our videos like tweet length. They're only like 2 minutes or less, because we understand that you're not going to sit down and watch a 30-minute lecture. But I just wanted to get those kids. I wanted to get the me's that miss the boat with some of the stuff.
Awesome. And that might, you mentioned the length of the videos. You talked earlier about the playlist. Maybe now's a good time to do a little screen share and kind of let anybody who's watching live or on replay see kind of what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So this is our site, shedthemusic.com, and we have it organized down here with our main content tiles. So like, if you were interested in counted rhythms, you can go here, and then there's an index with all of the counted rhythms, and it's all separated out. And then for each one, we have videos and documents, really easy to understand documents. And I know a lot of teachers, there isn't like a method book with this stuff in there, and this really helps them. And all the videos are either me or my partner, and we're just clearly explaining things. And YouTube tutorials are huge, and kids like YouTube tutorials, but there's no way of vetting the quality of these things besides the amount of likes that they have. So since it's all in one place, it allows the student to go in there. Or like, if you're really into to jazz language, we have this giant library of things, and you can build your own solos and write your own stuff, and it really helps the burgeoning musician. And what we've found is that by like reaching out to other people and working with our kids, this could articulate with our grammar schools and our middle schools, and then higher ed. And so we've been working on that, and it's been really exciting and really successful. And then the digital badge piece is where I think it'll all work together. So if we can go back to, is this me? Can you see me? Is this me?
Yes.
Am I me? Okay.
You are you. And
all right.
One clarifying question for the uninitiated like myself who can't actually read music, and it felt like what I was looking at was almost a kind of dynamic online textbook.
That's basically what it is. And then a lot of it actually is meant for students that don't read music, because when you're going to like solo or play with other people, you don't necessarily need to know how to read music, and that's traditionally the path that most music textbooks take. And they also teach music as if it was like the 1850s, and we all don't need to know how to play harpsichord to like a Bach thing. So this is like music theory for the modern musician, but it's still real. Like, it's still super rigorous, and there's a lot of studying to do, but it's the essential elements that are going to make you a successful musician in the modern world, instead of things that were super important a while ago and that have been trickling down through the higher ed pipeline and have gotten lost some of their meaning.
And so, speaking of the higher ed pipeline, I guess I'm curious, how do they view the rigor, and as far as you approaching it a little bit differently, that you're not just going, like you said, with the traditional harpsichord and Bach, but music for the modern musician?
You have to talk to the right people, and you have to approach it in the right way. I've learned that the not so fun way, but we're working with Columbia College in Chicago, and the head of their jazz department is just like, he has the exact same philosophy that I do, and he teaches almost the exact same way with this method I'm calling harmonic control. And it's, if you can talk to anybody and maybe use some different verbiage, It might ruffle some feathers, but for the people that are gigging in the modern music field, like they understand the validity of it. And they're like, oh yeah, I know that stuff, but I never learned it this way. I learned it through this long, dragged out method that was taught in kind of an unfun way. Like most schools have a music theory class, but kids don't want to take it. And I have like an overload in my music theory classes because it's just fun and engaging because it uses the music that they like. And they see right away that like, oh man, if I knew my scales better, then I could play like this dude. And then they work on it, and they have the shed to help them out. And now we're working on badging all those skills and indexing those skills so they can see like, all right, I'm here, but I need to get here. And these are the things that I need to do to get there. And then the super exciting thing is we're working with Columbia in Chicago on making those badges valid in their classes, and how we can use that for the admission process and for scholarships and placement for incoming freshmen.
I think you just used a lot of magic words there that are going to get people excited. And for anybody who is watching live, if you want to ask Bob questions live on the air, just tweet them at me on #BadgeChat, and we'll get those live for you. Before we dive in, Bob, to the piece there on the actual articulation agreements and colleges actually valuing these credentials, back us up to just the bridge from what you showed us of the kind of more instructional side to the credentialing side, and actually how students are being credentialed with digital badge credentials for this.
So we are, I'll flip back to my screen here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so if you go to the bottom of our page, and we're still building everything out. This sequence here is actually something that I've been working with Columbia on, and I've just been recording videos and creating the actual content for it. But this is a harmonic control sequence, and this takes a student from knowing like the ABCs in music to all the way being able to like have an idea in their head and getting it on their instrument without the instrument or their brain getting in the way. So this is our LRNG.
And one thing that might help for the uninitiated is there's kind of two buzzwords happening there with playlists and XP. So if you would definitely slow down for us.
Okay. Okay. So this is how the LRNG, their platform is laid out. You have playlists, which like here is our finger drumming playlist. The playlist is broken down into different XPs. And then once you complete all of the XPs and submit your evidence and it gets reviewed, then you earn the badge. So like for this XP, you have to play along with this video. You have to take a video of yourself playing with this sweet beat. I'm playing a snare patch. And inside those videos, there are skill assessments. Like I'll drop the metronome out, and the student just has to tap their finger to the beat. So it's not just showing that, oh, they can play drums. It's like actually demonstrating like real skills, and they have to practice to it. And if they don't practice to it, it's designed to where like they're not going to be successful. They're going to see exactly what they need to work on, but they're not going to be successful. Anyway, they upload their video, and then it gets sent to us. We review it, and then if they pass all of the XPs in the playlist, LRNG's kind of set up like a video game, which is cool. They have these XPs in a playlist, and then they get the badge, and then that badge is just became Open Badge 2.0 compliant, and then they can use that on we're trying to use it on college applications and other things. So we just have these.
And for anybody who doesn't know what you meant there with Open Badge 2.0 compliant, this might be the first time on a show and tell that we've had that come up. Do you mind kind of just super high level without going under the hood to the tech side?
I don't even. All I know is that it's going to be easier to share. Like I've looked at it before, and I've looked at like the code and stuff, and I've been on the Mozilla site about it, and I might be able to explain it better to me, because
you don't need me to do that for you. Well, and I'm sure I see that our friends over Badger team are following along with the chat, so maybe they'll jump in. For anybody who's watching this, make sure to check out #BadgeChat, and you'll probably see an explanation show up there in a minute.
Thank you, Badger.
And so, Bob, now that we understand how students go with just not just on the consumption instructional side, but then, going through those LRNG playlists and the XPs to actually demonstrate competencies and submit for the credentials, the digital badge credentials. How do we then, get these partnerships with, higher ed institution like Columbia, and what does that look like?
Well, that was just the right place at the right time. So we presented at the Jazz Education Network this year in New Orleans in January. Last year. Oh my gosh, it is January. It's probably happening right now. So a year ago, we presented at the Jet. It's been a long day. It was the first
Happy
day back from
anniversary.
winter break. Thanks. Oh yeah, it was the first year. So the head of their jazz department and the head of their guitar department was there, and then they were like, "This is like awesome what you're doing with your jazz etude writing and everything, and this is exactly where we want to go." And so it was just kind of word of mouth, and we were there at the right time. And then, we have a lot of connections from presenting at conferences and just being professional musicians, and then we just reach out, cold call, email old professors, and but Columbia, they're redoing all of their curriculum in 2018, and they want to get away from the traditional textbook. So it's just like the perfect storm of like-minded individuals who are looking to change in a way that we are looking to change. And then they want to work together. Like, I've been on calls with the head of their jazz department, and we're talking through curriculum, and we're tweaking stuff and sending videos, and he's going to come in and do some videos for us. And it's really cool. But that was just, I wouldn't know without those circumstances. I wouldn't necessarily know how to make that connection. But it was just getting that feeler for them wanting to go where we want to go, and then just hitting it, and then just being, flexible and understanding with like, okay, I think this is the best thing in the world, but they want to change this beginning thing, and I understand, so that's just good business.
Totally. And we do still have just about 10 minutes left. So if you want to get a question to Bob, it's a hashtag badge chat, and we'll definitely get that question asked to Bob live on the air. And so it sounds almost like, you say right place, right time, but I'm almost thinking about Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, that some of the stuff that just seems coincidental. Actually, there's a lot more than just happenstance going into it. It sounds like, yeah, there's definitely some right time, right place. There's some luck. There's some just total nexus, but it also sounds like there's some hustle. There on your end.
There's a lot of hustle. I don't know why, but like this entrepreneurial bug that is fueled by like a passion that is steering us. Like, all right, we have this thing, we think it's great, and we want to help other people. And then just like that energy has really pushed us, like waking up at 4:30 in the morning and just working on worksheets to like push out on the website, or making videos. And the kids love it too. They're like, when's the next shit video coming on? And that has, that is like bled into like contacting companies for sponsorship and talking about digital badging, and then talking to different colleges just to see where it's going. So throwing everything out there, seeing what sticks, and then pursuing it to the best of our ability. So yeah, I guess there's been a lot of hustle.
And because a lot of what you're talking about is having arrangements with a college, where their music department is actually looking for these credentials from incoming students, for a lot of us, everything in our background knowledge about the education system says that would need to be an institutional relationship. I, as a classroom, high school music teacher, cannot make this happen on my own. And so, what kind of lessons can people learn from you there about just the audacity to say it can be just me, Bob? It doesn't have to be, this more institutional level thing. What can people beg, borrow, and steal from you on that?
Well, I think what really helped was LRNG. You can't just that you have to be in some sort of organization to post XPs and playlists on their platform. So us having, like it says, Shed the Music is an organization, and the website, we tried as hard as we could to make it look really good. And you wouldn't know it's just like two dudes that have coffee in a super messy office. And I think the takeaway is just to find because the reason why we made it is because it wasn't out there and we wanted to help our students. So find what isn't out there and what would help your kids or what would help your target demographic or whatever. And then just have as many friends as possible and owe as many favors as possible. Like, I've cooked dinner for the designer person that did our logo. And, it's just like beg, borrow, steal, but be as nice as possible about it. And then things happen. But I think what really helped was getting in with LRNG and having Jessica's been an amazing help, Jessica Rosenberg, in just like legitifying and codifying everything and making sure it's as legit as possible. But yeah.
I love that sort of approach. That I don't think that's necessarily unique to Chicago. The people anywhere who want to make magic happen for our students, just give ourselves permission to go for it and make it happen for our students because at the end of the day, we're all out to change the world. You mentioned, Bob, sponsorships. Do you mind touching on that? What sponsorships do you have in place right now, and how did they come about?
It's like the lightest of sponsorships. When I say sponsorships, so we had LRNG gave us through the Chicago Community Trust, we got a grant, and then we're not a nonprofit, so we had to go through the American Jazz Museum, and they were our fiscal sponsor. So that helped a lot, and that allowed us to make our video studio what it is. Like, it's right now I have foot pedals that I've programmed so I can do a full-blown, what looks like a hyper-produced video, but I'm just running it with my feet, so it doesn't take any time in post, which is fantastic. And then just cold emails. Like, really, IK Multimedia, we're working with them, and Note Flight, we're working with them. So there's unlocked things that you can get when you get these badges, and like you can get a 25% off coupon for the pads that I use for that finger drumming series, or Note Flight will throw you a couple free months of their pro subscription, and then you're working with others. So for both of those different companies, it was just emailed customer support and I'd be like, here's this idea, this is what we're doing, and then I threw together like just like a basic outline of what we can do for them, and then what a video would look like. Through them a video like, look how cool this is using your product, and look at who you could reach. And then they're like, yeah. And then everybody's great. That whole community, the ed tech community, they've all been really nice and supportive of everything that we've been doing. So
that's really awesome. If you would think of it, I'm sure that folks would love to see a version of one of those emails that you've sent, and especially if you maybe want to tweet out and include hashtag badge chat when you tweet it out, a link to Google Doc or something. And I think something else that might be neat is that sort of, I don't know what you call it, spec sheet or whatever word you give it for, hey, here's why this is a good idea for your company. Here's what you can get. I'm sure there's folks who might be wondering, God, that sounds like such a good idea, but how do I don't know how to talk their language. You've successfully figured it out. So I'm sure there's folks who would love to kind of piggyback off your efforts and follow in your footsteps there. We did have a question asking you about how long you've been using the badge system. I know you say it's still in development, but maybe let us know if it is in play yet, and with how many participants, and also have you seen increased interest in the program since you've added badges?
We haven't. Okay, so there's a couple pieces that I haven't talked about. We have all those up, and I've had a couple people go through and earn some badges in there. But what I'm really trying to do is, as a teacher, get other teachers on board before we really push it out. Like, I plan on publishing articles and doing NAFME webinars, that's the National Association for Music Education, and doing presentations on it. So I wouldn't say that we've been using it for, the official like rollout is going to be in a couple months when we do this big thing with Columbia. But I want the back end of LRNG to be super friendly for music teachers, so they can go in, create their own groups with their own students, and then do the assessments for their own students to get these badges, so they don't have to wait for me to watch all these videos, or so I don't have to watch all these videos, which I would love to do, but I already have to grade my students. So I've been teaching as if they were badges for about a year and a half, like super skill based, like we're working on this challenge this week, and the kids love it. But we haven't officially fully moved over, so we're in a transition period. And since we haven't like fully announced, like, hey, we're doing digital badges now, I haven't seen that much of an increase in the site. I mean, besides the fact that we're still only a year old, so there is a huge increase in the analytics, but that could just be from us going out and doing presentations and people knowing what it's all about. So kind of an answer to your question. I would say I could tweet out later with #BadChat, and when things really roll, maybe we could follow up, because it's super exciting and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Absolutely, and hopefully, we're going to be in Chicago town for Badge Summit, June 23rd of 2018. So anybody who plans on joining us there, hopefully we'll be able to get Bob and his partner out to that with us, as well as some folks from LRNG. So definitely a chance to see the progress firsthand 6 months from now. And, kind of an outro question. Let me just make sure we don't have one on the Twitter. No. So kind of an outro question for you here. You did mention that you've learned some questions the hard way, as far as how to approach, potential partners. And so maybe you've shared some best practices about how to go about things. Maybe as a final question, what are best practices you can share about things not to do?
It was the same. It was the same manner of just like bombastic, super vigorous presentation of our stuff to somebody that I should have read as wasn't going to receive it that well. It was part of the older guard of a college, and I was in the same way, like, rah, and he's like, "Oh, badges, it sounds like Boy Scouts. What are badges?" It's like, okay, sorry, let's back up. But I knew him really well. Well, I didn't know him really well. I know him well. So we were able to back up together. And he's like, if you talk to somebody that's older about this, make sure that you like are way more clear about what this is. Because I thought you were talking about Boy Scout stuff for quite some time. And so I had to, think about who you're presenting to instead of just, millennial entrepreneurial people all the time.
Awesome. Well, Bob, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy Monday afternoon to join us. And for anybody who's watching this on playback, he is Bob Habersat. You can check out the website, shedthemusic.com. You can follow them on Twitter at shedthemusic. And it looked like, is there a password wall on that LRNG playlist?
No passwords.
It looks like that was lrng.org/o/shedthemusic, I think is.
Yeah, and then it's just at the bottom of. I'm not sharing my screen right now. It's at the bottom of our website. There's an LRNG logo, and then you can just go there, and it'll bring you right to our playlists.
Awesome. So that also probably a great place for folks who are thinking, I'm kind of into this playlist and XP idea, and it'd be great to have a model out there. Maybe at the very least that this can be a great resource for folks in that regard. Bob, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. And thank you everybody out that's watching, and look forward to, badging it up.
Totally. And I'm Noah Geisel. It's been awesome to be with everybody for the first time here in 2018. We'll be back on Twitter next week. And definitely, if you've been following around with Badge Chat for a while and you have ideas for topics that we need to revisit, topics we haven't had yet, please do reach out. If you want to moderate, we are definitely all about the sharing and collaboration. And if you want to take on a leadership role and get involved with Badge Summit 2018, June 23rd in Chicago, hit me up. Would love to have you be on the team. Thanks, everybody, and have an awesome and badge-worthy week. See ya.